Is the presentation visible?
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है, तो just give me a second. I'll quickly start. So we started with different land resources yesterday, and we are about to read about the Sariska Tiger Reserve. So, does anybody remember about the Waterman of India? हमने फर्स्ट क्लास में पढ़ा था, फर्स्ट या सेकंड क्लास में, तो किसी को याद है? नहीं? ओके,
Rajendra
तरुण
Singh.
भरत संग,
Rajendra Singh.
ओके, राजेंद्र सिंह, वेरी गुड. So, the event of Sariska Tiger Reserve is basically associated with mining events which were illegally happening in the forest, in the reserve, in the Sariska Tiger Reserve. So, Sariska Tiger Reserve is one area which used to have huge number of tiger population, and it was a huge reserve which was not only had a tiger population but also was concerned with uh, breeding the different tiger species to increase their number. So, this reserve was extremely rich in minerals like copper, limestone, marble, even coal mines, poorer quality of coals, but these coal mines were also there. So, this reserve, which is in Alwar, Rajasthan, it was extremely rich in a lot of minerals, a lot of mineral ores were there. So, often to obtain or to for it to mining events to occur in forest, special permissions have to be taken from the government, and those permissions were taken by a couple of associations. They did take permissions for carrying out these processes in the forest, but a lot of illegal mines also started coming up. A lot of people started illegally, a lot of organizations started illegally mining different zones in the tiger reserves. So what do you think illegal mining could have? What are the consequences of illegal mining if I start mining in a reserve area, that too wherein a lot of tigers are there? So what do you think could be the consequences? What harmful effect can it have on biotic factors?
Release of harmful toxic gases as well as the reduction of the natural land for the tigers to survive.
और मैम
Very good.
साउंड का जो होगा साउंड
ठीक है, हाँ, राइट. There'll be noise pollution
मशीन.
also. हाँ, machine drilling
यस
की वजह से there will be some noise pollution also. And if you start drilling, if you start mining, a lot of dust will be released. So air pollution भी होगा, chemicals will also be released. So there will be pollution which will be in terms of noise pollution. There will be air pollution also. Then there will be soil pollution also. A lot of biodiversity will be lost, because if a reserve
यस
wherein which is so much rich in these minerals, and there are a lot of mining agencies which are or industries which are carrying out mining, so huge forest covers will also be lost. In addition to it, the water content or the groundwater levels, so they were also affected. They also started getting polluted because of excessively high levels of minings in the area. So basically, such high degree of mining had a huge impact on the water level. They had a huge impact on the groundwater level, on the quality of water, the diversity of plants, and it all, because so much mining started taking place there, it also affected the population, the wildlife which was living there. So wildlife, whenever such reserves are made or such natural parks and sanctuaries are made, so the idea is to create a natural environment for them, because of course we have inhabited a lot of area. We would not like somebody said a couple of classes ago, that sometimes wild animals they enter into our personal spaces, which is of course disturbing, which is not safe as well. So whenever people like us, they start mining in such reserves which are typically supposed to be their homes, they're supposed to be their personal zones. So reserves and sanctuaries are made because we try to create near natural conditions for these wild animals, so that they can survive in their natural conditions with least possible interference in their natural ecosystem. So when so much mining events they started increasing, when so much events they started rising, then eventually Dr. Rajendra Singh, he took he was the flag bearer of the event. He filed in Supreme Court for banning the high levels of high number of illegal mining sites which were there in Sariska. And initially, it was not assumed that the extent of illegal mining would be so high, but it was a public interest litigation. PIL was filed by him, and it was found that this reserve, which was rich in limestone, which was rich in coal, which was rich in copper, it had more than 470 illegal mines. So the number of mines after a PIL was filed, after voices were raised against it, so it was found out that the number of illegal mines which were there were more than 470. And this was led by Dr. Rajendra Singh, who is also known as the Waterman of India. So, I think in 2018, eventually, by the order of Supreme Court, and whichever environmental events which occur, which happen in India, they are, I would say, regulated by, of course, the courts which are there. But there's also an organization known as the National Green Tribunal, NGT. So National Green Tribunal is also the regulating agency. So by the order of Supreme Court and NGT, all these mining activities which were either within the reserve or the ones which were within 10 kilometers of Sariska Reserve, they were banned, they were stopped. So Sariska River Reserve is important because it is abundant in coal, iron, copper, and in addition to these things, it's also limestone. It's also rich in manganese, and it's also rich in a mineral which is called as bridge magnite. So, brad magnite. So, bridge magnite, I've mentioned it incorrectly, Roko. Bridge magnite. So, bridge magnite basically is also magnesium silicate. So, it's also another mineral which is extracted from which used to be obtained from these tiger reserves. And because it had such huge variation and variety and concentration of minerals, manning was entirely banned within these reserves and also within 10 kilometers of its diameter to ensure that no such illegal activities or illegal mining events they affect the environment, the pollution, and also the biodiversity of the area. So is this clear to everybody?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
hope it's
Yes,
clear.
ma'am.
We'll start with another part of another uh, second portion of land reserves, which is the soil portion. So, what is soil? What do you know about soil?
Uppermost layer of the Earth's crust.
The uppermost layer of the Earth's crust.
The uppermost layer of the Earth crust. Very good. So, the outermost portion of Earth's crust, which is known as soil, the medium for plant growth or the substrate जहाँ पर plants can establish its root, it can anchorage the root, it can hold the roots and grow. That is soil. It's also the medium which contains all nutrients. So, सारे nutrients which are in mobilizable form, which are in movable forms, they are in soil. Then apart from soil basically it's a complex buffer. It's like a buffer which has all these nutrients which are essential for sustaining plant growth, which are essential for plants to grow, and it is also necessary for different microorganisms to sustain themselves. So the outermost thin layer of earth's crust, which is also a medium for plant growth, which is also the substrate for anchoring for plants. It's the source of essential mineral nutrients, and it's also renewable in nature. So soil is a renewable resource. It can be constantly renewed. Its quality can be improved. Its levels can be it can be reclaimed because weathering of rock constantly keeps occurring. So soil is it's that layer of earth, it's the topmost layer of earth which is heavily affected because of human activities, and it's majorly affected in form of it can undergo soil erosion. So soil erosion is the event which majorly affects soil or the quality or the degree of soil. So humus is the topmost layer. So you must have heard of terms like humus. So it is the topmost rich layer. So the organic layer of soil is known as humus, and it's the most fertile layer. It is the layer which consists of maximum of the nutrients, and it is responsible for affecting the productivity. How much good productivity or poor productivity an ecosystem will provide to you, it is determined by the quality or the organic content of a soil. So if the organic matter is rich, then the productivity will also be high. It will be more fertile for plants to grow, for microorganisms to survive. If the organic matter is poor, if its concentration is low, then the productivity will also be low. The microorganisms की diversity या population, it will also be low. They'll not be able to survive so wellly in that types of soil जहाँ पर productivity या fertility is not so good. And it's also important for biogeochemical cycle, especially the lithospheric or the edaphic cycle. So do you remember which are the primary cycle, like biogeochemical cycles associated with soil?
Nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur.
Very good. Nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur. So majorly nitrogen, phosphorus. So these two are the biogeochemical cycles which are associated with them. So soil, it forms a fundamental part of the human environment, and it's essential because it holds nutrients. It also holds water and provides a substrate for recycling nutrients, for increasing productivity. It is a source of nutrient and water. It is good for forest ecosystems, plants and organisms. So so soil basically it is rich. It is important for all different life forms, be it the plant or the producer life forms or the microbial community, or whether so as I said, ki it's very rich in organic matter. So it's a huge reservoir of carbon as well. It has high concentration. It's a good reservoir of organic matter as well. So soil across the world, it varies with respect to its characteristics, its properties, they vary, and based upon the differences in their characteristics, in their properties, they can be classified. So there are some major soil groups which are found in India, and these major soil groups are alluvial soil, there is black soil, red soil, laterite soil, desert soil, and acid soil. So we'll be studying some characteristics of different types of soil. You don't have to worry about this too much. Just try remembering the basic characteristics and which are the places these soils are found in India. So if you ever asked to write about land resources, you must know that one of the primary land resource. So, matlab, what is land providing to us? What is the lithospheric region providing to us? So, the first thing that it provides to us is the minerals, coal, mineral elements that we use, and they are obtained by events like mining. And mining, it helps us obtain these minerals, these elements, but it's harmful because it has some harmful effects, like it causes groundwater pollution, it causes air pollution, it causes soil pollution, it removes biodiversity, it declines the biodiversity, and also the people who are working in such areas, they become more susceptible, they become more prone to occupational hazards like or occupational diseases like black lung disease, जहाँ पे they can inhale these toxic chemicals and their lungs can be heavily affected. So, so after studded minerals, the second important source, the second important natural resource that land provides to us is in the form of soil. So soil is important because not only it's the outermost layer, but it and a medium for plant growth. It also sustains high levels of soil within itself, of water within itself. It allows plant to grow and establish its root. It's like a buffer which contains different nutrients and water. It's also renewable, and it is heavily affected because of events like soil erosion. So we'll study different types of soils that are there, and what different kinds are there in India, and what are the some basic differences in their properties or characteristics, in which soil. So different soils are good for different crop production. They Some are for different kinds of nutrient cycling. So all these kinds of soils have different properties. So often soil erosion is mitigated, it's carried out, it's there because of high levels of running water. It can also play an important role in maintaining it. Soil erosion can also affect the groundwater levels, underground water levels also. Then it is affected by wind or events like deforestation or overgrazing. So soil is important for survival of different life forms, and there are some important conservation methods also. Methods like farming. I am not sure if you've ever heard of it. Often farmers they
Yes,
make ridges
contribute.
and contours. Huh? So ridges and contours are made to ensure the whenever the runoffs are there, so it's not the layers of soil are not lost. Then there are events like mulching also. तो मल्चिंग
मैम
में
मैम स्टेयर
what
के
we
रूप में
place.
फार्मिंग वही है ना, स्टेयर के
हम्म,
फॉर्म, स्टेयर्स के फॉर्म में जो फार्मिंग होती है वही है ना कंट्रोल।
हाँ, कॉन्टूर फार्मिंग वही होती है. देन मल्चिंग इज ऑल्सो देयर, जहाँ पे मल्चिंग में यू प्लेस कार्डबोर्ड और यू प्लेस न्यूज़पेपर्स ओवर द surface of soil to reduce any loss in soil moisture. Then crop rotation, I think everybody must have heard of it. कि crop
Yes, ma'am.
rotation is you plant different crops every year because the same crop it depletes nutrients. So often crop rotation is done by planting your choice of crop, and the next year you plant legumes. So legumes, they are nitrogen fixing organisms and they help redeem the lost nutrients. Then there are events like strip cropping also. Cropping, maybe you plant crops in rows or in stripes, and it is, so strip cropping is a lot like contour farming only, but isme the only difference is that key strips are planted, so you have strips and you have contours at a 90-degree wala slope. So they are, so instead, so these strip croppings, they may be parallel also, or they can be at 90 degrees also. So this is the only difference which contour farming and strip farming have. They can be parallel, much like contour farming, or they can be at an angle of 90-degree also, to prevent or to limit the effect of strong winds. So then there is dry farming also. So there are all these things, all these conservation methods which are there, which ensure or which try to limit the loss or the effect of the basically loss of soil because of soil erosion. So we'll be studying about different layers of soil. So it's different layers of soil. Don't memorize it. It just is. I'll simply
मैम
explain the basics of it. Yes.
इन प्रीवियस स्लाइड व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय एंकरेज, सबस्ट्रेट फॉर एंकरेज,
Anchorage. Anchorage. Anchor का मतलब क्या होता है? Right?
एंकर यानी
हाँ, एंकरेज मतलब कि जो रूट्स होती हैं, दे होल्ड ऑन टू द सरफेस, दे एंकर द सॉइल टू 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 प्रॉपरली ग्रो देयर, एंड ऑल्सो कि जब हाई विंड्स फ्लो या हाई वाटर फ्लो इज देयर, तो वो गिर ना जाए या दे आर नॉट लॉस्ट अवे or did not fall off. So anchorage basically is holding of soil, or a healthy soil ensures कि the plants can, you the plant roots can tightly anchor to the soil, right? So that whenever there are high flows of wind, so these plants or these they do not fall off very easily. Then also, when is the World Soil Day? Does anybody know? Anybody? Okay, so the World Soil Day is on the 5th
I just
of
remember
December.
5 December.
It's on
it is
5th of December. So there are some different layers of soil. So it is the uppermost layers are the O and the A horizon, or the O and A layer. So before that, there are two terms. There are terms like edaphology, and there are terms like pedology. So pedology is the basic understanding of soil, and when we try to understand the effect of soil on living organisms, that is known as edaphology. तो जब हम पेडोलॉजी बोलते हैं, तो इट बेसिकली रेफर्स टू सॉइल स्टडी, नथिंग एल्स, कि सॉइल कॉम्पोजिशन, फॉर्मेशन, एवोल्यूशन, वेदरिंग ऑफ रॉक्स. बट व्हेन आई से एडाफोलॉजी, तो इफ यू रिमेंबर कि हमने बायोजियोकेमिकल साइकिल में भी when we read about it, so I said there are edaphic cycles. They are edaphic type of biogeochemical cycles, because in addition to soil, living organisms were also living there, and we were basically trying to understand the influence of soil on living organisms. So edaphology is the effect of soil, the influence of soil on living organism, and pedology is basically the science of soil formation. So O horizon and A horizon are the, so O horizon is the surface litter, the dry leaves, the dry twigs, green waste which add to your organic matter or nutrients of the soil, while A horizon is the topmost layer, the fertile most layer of the soil. So O and A horizon are the one wherein the plant roots, they anchor, they seep inside, they keep a hold of it. Then E horizon is the leaching zone. So often groundwaters or wherever the aquifers or the leaching of chemicals or water, it occurs in the E horizon. And then there are B horizon, which has small rocks, then which and also is called subsoil. Then there is a C horizon, which has bigger rocks and bedrock, and the last one is the bedrock, which has a huge piece of landmass. So basically क्या हो रहा है कि bedrock है, which is breaking down, which is where which and is forming these huge rocks, the sea horizon or the parent material. These sea rocks or the big rocks are further undergoing weathering. They are breaking down into smaller soil particles and is known as the subsoil. Subsoil के ऊपर there is a E horizon जहाँ पे which has fine particles of soil, and it is the area wherein your groundwater is stored, aquifers are stored, and often chemicals can also, if there are high levels of pollution, if there are high levels of nitrogen and phosphorus, which is in the case of chemical fertilizers, so they can often pollute the groundwater which is there in the E horizon. A horizon is your topmost fertile layer, and O is the surface litter or the humus or the twigs or the green waste which you add to increase the organic content of the soil. So this is how the soil layers they look like. You have so basically this refers to the, what do you think are these layers? These two arrows. Which layers do you think they signify?
S3
O
dot
and A or
I think.
Topmost two layers, right? Which are
O and
there?
yes, ma'am. O and A.
Good. So we'll be studying some different types of soil which are there, what different properties do they have, and some probably examples from India. So if you are ever asked to define them, so you must know some key characteristics only and the examples, some Indian examples also. So the major type of soils are alluvial soil. There is black soil, red soil, laterite soil, desert soil, and also acid soil. So these are some major kinds of soils which are there. So we'll start with alluvial soil. So alluvial soil, the term alluvial comes from a word alluvius, and alluvius का मतलब होता है to wash against, or so it is easily washed, the soil which is washed against by water. So alluvial soil is often loose, it's unconsolidated, and since it's loose in nature, it can be often removed or it can undergo easy erosion if there are heavy flows of water. So as the name suggests, it can easily be washed against. So it can be easily washed against because it has a loose and a unconsolidated soil structure. So it can easily be removed and undergo soil erosion. So since it's easy to remove, it's loose, matlab the particles which are there are often fine particles. They are particles like silt and clay, and so the particles are often very fine, and since these fine particles are loose, they can easily undergo, they can be found and they can be removed by heavy flows of water. So these are often found along rivers. They're found in flood deltas or flood plains or deltas. So this type of soil is light. Since the particle size is small, it's fine. It's also porous and it's tillable in nature. Tillable matlab it's cultivable. It can be used to cultivate crops. So why do you think are these soils important? Can you think, or why do you think that they're not good? Or they're good, whichever you think. Are they good? Are they bad? This is how they look like. They often found along river deltas or flood basins.
They are good because it can be used for agriculture as well.
They're
Fertility
good
because
because very good. They're good
they are more fertile and rich in nutrients also, like I think phosphorus or potassium, I guess.
very good. So as most primarily they are good because often since they're loose and they are present along water bodies, they're present along adjacent to water bodies, so they can flow easily. And when they flow easily, so they are capable of collecting nutrients from water and also removing sediments from a flowing river body. Secondly, they are good. These type of soils are also used if you have to clean a water body or if you have to remove contaminants from a water body. Since they are fine particles, since they are loose particles, they can flow easily. They're often also used to remove contaminants or sediments from rivers, and they help improve the water quality. So these type of soils, they're deficient in phosphorus. They are not very rich in phosphorus, which is also good because a lot of additional phosphorus is being released anyway into these soils. And these are primarily found in the Ganga Indo-Gangetic plains, which start from the Punjab to West Bengal and Assam Wala region. So they are basically spread across the Indo-Gangetic plains, and these can be divided. They are basically can be divided into bhangar or old soils, or khadar or the new soil. So they can be old also, uh, or they can be very relatively newer kinds of soil also. So these are your alluvial soils. Then there are black soil also. So black soil is primarily found in countries like Europe, Russia, India, and Canada, and they are black in color. So their black color is indicative of the fact that they are extremely rich in organic carbon. So they are black in color, and their black color is because of high levels of organic carbon. So they often appear black in color. They are wet, they are sticky kind of a soil, and because of such high enrichment of organic carbons, they are good for cultivation of crops like cotton. So often in areas where there is cotton cultivation, cotton is grown, so it's a suitable and perfect fit for growing cotton. So they are also used to grow crops like sugarcane, tomato, and different oil seeds. So oil seeds also, they require high organic carbon for their growth, since they are the ones we extract our vegetable oils from. So for oil seeds also, these type of soils are really good. So these are rich in lime, iron, manganese, aluminium, and potash. And while they are poor in elements like nitrogen and phosphorus, so they are primarily found in states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and on the Deccan Plateau. So these are the third largest type of soil which is there in our country. So black soil is black because of high levels of what do you say, organic carbon within them. So this is how they appear, and they're often used for growing the best quality of cotton. So they are used for cotton cultivation, and they are extremely rich in components like manganese, aluminium, potash, lime, and iron. And it indicates that they have derivatives. They have been derived from lava, and because they are derived from lava, that is why they are so rich in lime, iron, magnesia, aluminium, and potash, but not so rich in components like potassium and nitrogen, phosphorus and nitrogen. Right. So is this clear to everybody? These two types of soil.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then there is red soil. So red soil is it develops, and it mostly is found in warm, temperate conditions wherein the climate is moist. It has a moist climatic condition, and these are mostly found in deciduous forests. So in deciduous or in mixed forests, जहाँ पे there are both deciduous and some tropical plants, but mostly in deciduous forests. So these kind of soils, they are not so rich in nutrients. They have low nutrient quality. Then since they have a poor nutritional quantity, so it also has a poor water holding capacity. Water holding capacity is basically कि एक lump of soil can hold how much amount of water within itself. So because it's low in nutrients, it also has a poor water holding capacity. So these are deficient in lime, magnesium, and phosphate, and they are primarily found in the peninsular region of India, and are the second largest type of soil which is there. So why do you think is matlab red soil red in color? Black soil is black because there is organic carbon. Why is red soil red?
Presence of ferric oxide.
Very good. Who answered that?
Priyanshu.
Very good, Priyanshu. So they are red because there are high levels of iron oxide or ferric oxide, and because which basically in when they are poor water conditions, they appear red, and if they're high water conditions, they appear yellow. So they mostly appear red only because these type of soils, they do not have very high water holding capacity, as I just said. So their color mostly appears yellow, but if the amount of or the availability of water is extremely high, they can turn into yellow also. So this is another kind of soil which is there. It's majorly found in the peninsular region, uh, Tamil Nadu to starting from Tamil Nadu to Bundelkhand, and it has poor nutritional content as well as poor water holding capacity. Then another type of soil is your laterite soil. So laterite soil is rich in iron, it's rich in aluminium, and is majorly found in tropical regions wherein the rainfall is high, the temperature is also very high. So mostly laterite is rocky type in nature. They are yeah, it is a rocky type of soil or substrate. So they can be soil type also, but majorly it's like a rock. So these are often used for building monuments or for construction of monuments. So everybody must have heard of Angkor Wat, which is in Cambodia, the temple. I
No,
hope
ma'am.
टेम्पल रन नहीं खेला कभी मोबाइल पे टेम्पल
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
रन
ma'am.
में
Temple run खेला है.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Temple
हाँ
run
तो
खेला है.
टेम्पल रन में वो क्या होता है स्ट्रक्चर अंकोर वाट ही तो है वो उसमें कभी सिलेक्ट नहीं किया ऑप्शंस होता है तो जो अंकोर वाट विच इज इन कम्बोडिया उसके कंस्ट्रक्शन में भी लैटेराइट सॉइल इसको लिखना मत ऐसे गलती से भी होके कभी एग्जाम्स में जस्ट टू मेक यू मेमोराइज इट तो अंकोर वाट के कंस्ट्रक्शन में भी लैटेराइट रॉक्स हैव बीन यूज्ड and they are very rich in aluminium. They are also very rich in nickel and iron. So these are the three elements that they and also laterite soils are also often the ores. तो जितनी भी aluminium ores होती हैं, so a lot of aluminium ores are also found around the areas जहाँ पे laterite soil is really high. So in India, Eastern and Western Ghats, Karnataka, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh. These are the areas where their concentration is, their number is high, and it's used for cultivation of ragi crops, rice, cashew nuts. So these are the crops which are primarily cultivated here. Then the last kind of soil which is there is your desert soil. Desert soil is mostly it's sandy. It requires low rainfall. The content of nitrogen and organic matter is also very low, but it has high levels of calcium chloride. And although levels of calcium chloride are they are high, sorry, but it's an infertile. It's majorly infertile or has poor fertility. So the type amount of calcium is almost 10 times more than the normal soil. And because of such high and calcium carbonates basically they are precipitate like so they decrease the water holding capacity of soil. So these are also known as arid soils. They primarily support growth of shrubs or grasses like bajra, pulses, johar, and they're found in states like Rajasthan, South Haryana, and Punjab. And then we have another category of soil which is acid soil. So acid soils are the ones in the pH is extremely it's acidic in nature. It's below 7 pH, but they're not as abundant so much in abundance as the major five soils are these. You have alluvial, black, red, yellow, laterite, and arid soil, and then there are forests and mountains also, which have wherein this type of soil it can be mixed or it can be a little. So the type of soil present there it supports vegetation of conifers and deciduous. Majorly of the coniferous population is supported in those areas. Then so we'll be covering the agriculture. So the another portion or another usage. So the two major sources of or the major uses of land resources were in the form of the minerals that they provide. Then they were in the form of the soil that it provides to us, which is important for cultivating different crops, for providing different nutrients, for holding different nutrients within and plants within them. Then the third usage or the third utility of land resources is in the term of is in the in with respect to the cultural aspect or the agricultural crops that grow. So the most dominant use of land resources is in the form of agriculture, has been in the form of agriculture because one has to meet the food demands of its growing population. And we know the population of our country is huge, and we are mostly a country which is dependent upon agriculture for survival. survival. So the most dominant use of land resources otherwise also is in the form of agriculture, because it is there to meet the food demand of population. So agricultural ecosystems, they cover around 40% of the land surface, and the total land area suitable for cropping or growing agricultural crops is nearly 4.4 billion hectares, out of which around 1.6 is currently under cultivation. So a lot of agricultural area already and is being used, uh, is already being overutilized for cultivation or for growing of crops. So agriculture is the, I would say, the dominating driving force for the economy for a lot of developing countries, especially, and which includes India as well. And agricultural productivity has increased uh, globally several folds over the last 80 years, and it's increased, and it has this industry has increased primarily due to excessive usage of these chemical fertilizers and pesticides. But this chemical intensive agriculture has a lot of adverse effects also, both on the land as well as on its resources. So agriculturally, the land cover which is currently being utilized is around 1.6 billion hectares, and we have progressed a lot over the last 80 years, and that has primarily been because of the excessive usage of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So there are the world food problems are there, that even though the food production is uh, is increasing, but because of the increasing, exponentially rising population, it's not enough to feed all the mouths, and therefore, and that is the reason why so many people, of course, chemical fertilizers and its usage is still prevalent, because the increase in population is not, it's extremely rapid, it's exponential, while the total food production it was unable it's still unable to keep up with this ever rising population levels or the growth levels. And this is why balance is necessary to ensure that everybody is given ample amount of food. And this difference between the food production and the increasing human population was the reason why green revolution, the concept of green revolution, came into existence. So how many of you know about green revolution, or what do you know about green revolution?
I know that after the Green Revolution, people or farmers started using the hybrid seeds of
Mm-hmm.
HVY something like that. They started using
Right.
that seeds so that their fertilization, so that their agriculture production increased.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hybrid seeds,
High yielding variety, HYV fields. Mm-hmm.
yes, one
Right.
high yielding variety.
So that is right. So green revolution, like you correctly said, there was green revolution when it came into existence. So it began with the usage of these high yielding variety seeds. So this research was done by it. It was started by a scientist known as Norman Borlaug of Philippines. So he was the one who designed these high yield variety seeds. So he realized that it started with, I think, rice crops and the wheat crops, the staple crops basically. So these staple crops, they, of course, the size of seeds was shorter and their heights were really long. So you know कि राइस को जब ग्रो करते हैं तो बहुत सारा पानी डालना होता है, फ्लडिंग कंडीशंस क्रिएट करनी होती है फॉर राइस टू ग्रो. सो व्हेन दे वुड फ्लड द फार्म्स, तो जो राइस की जो स्टेम होती थी, they had huge heights, but they were not sturdy enough. तो थोड़ी सी भी हवा चलती थी, they would fall off and the crop would be destroyed. So Norman Borlaug thought कि I have to increase the size of my grain. My grain, जो भी staple crop का grain है, मुझे उसका size increase करना है, मुझे height decrease करनी है, क्योंकि इतनी high height होने पर the plant falls off. So he genetically he bred in laboratories, he created varieties जिनमें the size, so he took two plants, he took a variety जिसमें size of grain was big, and he took a variety जिसमें the size of plant was short. It did not have a very huge height, and he crossed them. So he created a variety, he created a hybrid जिसमें the yield would be also very big, the size of grain would also be very big, you will get good sized grains, and also the size of plant would not be very high. So when even if there were flooding conditions or there were high winds blowing, these crops would not fall off. So he created these high yielding varieties, which were very good. So they were in around 1960s, the technologies they started, and by end of 1970s, they had this high yielding variety. So India, mein, there was another scientist, M.S. Swaminathan. So the father of Green Revolution is Norman Borlaug, but the Indian father of Green Revolution is M.S. Swaminathan. So he was also working along with Norman Borlaug on this concept. So they came up with these high yield variety seeds, the high yielding variety of seeds. But then, if you remember the DTT wala concept, jahan par these chemicals they led to eggshells, they became fragile and
Biomagnification.
everything.
Yes.
Hmm?
Biomagnification.
Sorry, I couldn't hear it.
I was saying biomagnification.
Yes,
BDT.
very good. Biomagnification. So the concept or the idea of fertilizers were also increasing. Ki there are some chemical fertilizers. There were some chemicals जो plant की yield increase कर देते हैं. So when of course, these high yielding varieties had a better yield. But when these scientists they applied these chemical fertilizers, when they started applying, so these high yielding varieties, which saved these people, which protected billions of lives by giving them food, by saving them from famine, a potential global famine. So, in around another decade, they realized that if they apply uh, these chemical fertilizers, if they start applying these modern techniques, these fertilizers, तो उससे क्या होगा कि total yield है, it started increasing by nearly 30-35%. I'll give you the exact number. I don't remember it right now. So the yield it increased a lot. It increased drastically when these fertilizers and chemical fertilizers were applied, and they were also included in the concept. So the whole drive of green revolution it started with these high yielding variety seeds, and it concluded to an event by introduction of these chemical pesticides, these fertilizers जिन्होंने yield बहुत drastically increase कर दी. So the major modules of green revolution, they were these high yield variety seeds, better irrigation techniques, there were modern equipments, there were hybridized seeds, and lastly synthetic chemicals, synthetic fertilizers were also introduced, which further increased the yield. So IR8 was the one, or international which was in IR8 rice was the one of the first high yielding varieties which was made, and this was done in the International Rice Institute. Research Institute in Philippines, where Norman Borlaug he worked upon that, and it led to increase of rice production from nearly 3.7 million to 7.7 million tons in 2 decades. And this such drastic increase, so initially that increase was not so drastic. So the drastic almost twofold increase that you see, it was achieved after chemical fertilizers were applied. So of course we were using better varieties, better yield, but the chemical fertilizers played an equally important role in ensuring that the yield increased drastically. So it was known as miracle rice, and its role in India was very important because we were facing a potential global famine at that time. So Green Revolution it helped provide food to people of India. It saved them from a potential famine. What are the potential problems associated with Green Revolution? ये तो पता ही है सबको. What is the potential problem, or what is the problem with green revolution? एक ही major problem है.
I
Come
think
on,
using chemical fertilizers and
Pricing की price
Pesticide.
like DDT.
no, we're using chemical fertilizers. You're using these chemical fertilizers,
Yes.
the chemical pesticides are being used. So problem which is being faced now, which is being faced is that of course the yields are increasing. The lot of yields were a huge yield was obtained.
Toxicity भी बढ़ रही है.
Hmm?
Toxicity भी increase हो रही है, मतलब basically.
Right, exactly. Toxicity increase हो रही है. It's polluting the soil. It's polluting the water bodies. Then the fertility of soil is getting exploited because you're introducing these chemical fertilizers. Then the microorganisms or the microbial community in the soil, it is also getting exhausted. It is also getting affected. Then if it enters into water bodies, then events like eutrophication and algal bloom occur, which exhaust resources for fishes. The nutritional quality of ecosystem is declining, and also genetic diversity is also gradually declining. You are so जेनेटिक डाइवर्सिटी मतलब कि you have a huge variety genetic pool. तो अगर हम तो one problem with agriculture, intensive agriculture, is that you select a particular variety. You pick a particular variety of rice, of tomato, of potato, whichever crop you're growing, because you know that this variety will give me a good yield. It will give me a good quality of product, and I'll further market it. But if you're growing it in your field, but when you're cutting forest, when you are removing pieces of forest to increase agriculture, so you are removing the existing diversity. As I think have I given the example of Parsi community? I think I have. And now,
Yes, ma'am.
right? So unki community is declining because inside breeding or inbreeding is increasing, and because of inbreeding their quality of gene is declining, and the same is happening with plants as well. When you keep on inbreeding, when you keep on breeding a similar kind of crop only, and you ignore other pools of other gene pools, you ignore the original gene pools, the real gene pools, then the genetic diversity is lost, and loss of genetic diversity will eventually affect the it will account for it will affect the total production of food in the world. So one of the solutions for green revolution, or for limiting or for removing the problems caused by green revolution, is by increasing sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture is the type of agriculture जहाँ पर, and the problem, as I said, is monoculture. तो monoculture मतलब कि you are using which is it's related to loss of diversity. Monoculture मतलब a single crop type of crop, you're growing it excessively, and you're using these pesticides, you're using these fertilizers. So this is the problem. And the alternate solution is that instead of pesticides, instead of fertilizers, you use integrated crop and pest management. तो इसका मीनिंग होता है कि let's say कि I have a rice field, and उस rice field में there is a pest and an aphid जो उस पे attack करते हैं बहुत excessively, right? तो instead of spraying chemical pesticides, क्या और मतलब what do you think is the natural thing that I can do if I have to remove these pesticides? तो अगर मुझे chemical spray नहीं
Introduction of
करना,
ladybirds, I think.
very good. Introduction of its predator.
Ladybirds.
So I'll introduce ladybugs. I'll introduce so ladybugs, they feed on these aphids and these pests, and that is very good. Who answered that? Ladybug wala.
Sharon.
Very good, Sharan. So, like Sharan said, कि ladybugs, which everybody must have seen, so they are protectors of plant. जो aphids या जो viruses, the plant viruses especially, or these pests. So ladybugs, they feed on them. So you can, so if you have to prevent or limit the usage of these chemical fertilizers, so you can do what the nature is anyway doing naturally. You can introduce its predator from the ecosystem, from its food chain. तो फूड चेन में जो उसका प्रेडेटर है उसको इंट्रोड्यूस कर दो. तो व्हेन इट्स इंट्रोड्यूस, तो ये अपने आप दे फीड ऑन दीज पेस्ट और these harmful pests, that they are the pests which are affecting your crop. So when these ladybugs, they'll protect your crop also, they'll feed on these pests as well. And you can also introduce microorganisms to increase rates of biological nitrogen fixation or phosphorus mobilization. So you can introduce organisms like mycorrhiza or rhizobium plants. Then traditional varieties or original wild varieties can also be introduced, and crop rotation can be done. As we mentioned, mulching can be done to improve soil moisture. So different alternatives are there which can be followed, which can be switched to if you want to switch to sustainable agriculture. Similarly, there are some other ways also. You can start increasing the germplasm, or seed banks are there. जहाँ पे you can store your seeds. Tissue culture facilities are there. So you can switch to laboratory methods to uh, save the germplasm, to save the genetic pool of different seeds to ensure that even if in due course of time, these if eventually these seeds are lost, you have their germplasm to further bring back those seeds or to renew those original varieties. Then alternate food sources can be used to prevent excessive usage of a single type of food. So we can start popularizing the not so common type of foods which are not fed by everybody. So the uncommon food sources or alternate food sources should be popularized. Then pest management can be done as we just discussed, and drip irrigation can. So drip irrigation is famous in countries like Israel, जहाँ पर there are these drip-like structures which are present. So looks something like this. So instead of simply farming, introducing high levels of water, flooding your fields and losing so much water, there are these drip-like structures which are there, and uh, they come in contact with every plant. So when they are there, so they introduce the drip your nutrient containing water in vicinity of your crop. So it limits the water usage also. It prevents any water loss also. Now it also makes sure that every crop get appropriate amount of water, right? So these are some ways of doing sustainable agriculture. Now there are some other agricultural revolutions also. In addition to your what do you say, green revolution. So what is blue revolution associated with? Who'll tell me?
saving water and the slide.
ब्लू रेवोल्यूशन, ग्रीन रेवोल्यूशन में हम क्रॉप्स ग्रो
Fish.
कर रहे हैं, तो ब्लू
Blue means
रेवोल्यूशन में
water.
क्या ग्रो करेंगे?
Fishes.
वेरी गुड, aquaculture, fishes. तो breeding of fishes, breeding of shellfish, aquatic plants, and seaweed, as I said. So it basically is your blue revolution. Then what is white revolution?
Milk, sir.
Milk.
Well, so white revolution or Operation Flood. So it was one of the largest dairy development program. So I'll discuss it a little bit in the next class with you. So this is so. And what do you think is golden revolution?
Heat,
I think something related to golden rice and
yellow color.
Okay, ठीक है. Something related to. Okay. What is pink revolution? We'll come to that.
I think meat related or
Very
Meat related.
red meat related. What is silver revolution?
Egg related.
Hmm?
mineral related, I guess. Mineral.
Who said egg related? It's related to production of egg and poultry, right? So that is your silver revolution. What is your
Yes, ma'am.
yellow revolution?
Oil seeds, etc.
Related to edible oil. Very good. It's related to edible oil, majorly mustard oil, sesame oil. So that is your yellow revolution. तो मुझे बताओ golden revolution क्या होगा? इसमें बहुत सारी pictures लगी हुई हैं इस slide में. तो मुझे देख के
हनी
Yes,
की
ma'am.
Honey.
हनी
Honey,
के लग रहा है मैम, हनी वाला, हनी
हाँ,
सनफ्लावर वाला.
honey and sunflower.
it's related to honey and horticulture. तो दोनों. तो ये your golden revolution is related to honey as well as your production of horticultural production. So these are your some other kind of production. So read a little bit about it. Go through some points about it. Ki who. So some of them are very important from the Indian perspective. So we have, I think we have a class next week up now. So in Monday's class, read about who the father or the mother of these revolutions are and try reading a little bit about them. So it's easily available on Google. थोड़ा बहुत पढ़ के आना, we'll discuss them. Then the second
Okay.
importance of
Okay, ma'am.
the land resources is in term of the forest products. तो हमने अभी तक पढ़ लिया कि their importances are in terms of this. There is the importance is in terms of different kinds of soil that are there, the agricultural crops that we grow with, and under which we study green. We studied about different ways of sustainable agriculture. And another importance of having of these land resources is that they provide a lot of forest products to us. So the products which are derived from forest for consumption or for a profitable use are known as the natural forest products. So they can be wood products like timber, firewood, wood pulp for making paper, or rubber, or like for livestock. So they can be wood products also, and they can be non-wood products also. Non-wood products like the ones we consume, like nuts, raisins, medicinal plants, or edible fruits or oils. So they are known as the non-timber forest products. So we have wood products and we have non-wood products which are also known as the non-timber forest products or NTFP. So NTFP or non-forest non-timber forest products, their extraction is less harmful because we're not cutting trees, we're not deforest or removing huge patches of trees, we are simply extracting. So they also have a negative impact. I'm not saying कि कोई negative impact नहीं होता when you grow plants for medicinal purposes. So often medicinal plants are very rare. They are endemic, or they are limited to a specific area. So they also have a negative impact, but it's not as negative as the extraction of the wood products, wherein you have to cut whole pieces or whole of trees for making paper, or for obtaining rubber, for timber, for making your furniture, or for firewood. So the negative impact of on ecosystem is higher when you're extracting the wood products as compared to the non-wood products. They have a lesser negative effect on the forest ecosystem. So the but both of them are important for generating revenue for every nation. So they are good revenue generators. So, timber extraction is one of the most major concerns of forest department because it causes high levels of deforestation. So, the major threats that it poses for the ecosystem are in terms of deforestation, and also that a lot of forest for a lot of tribal community, a lot of rural people, they are dependent on forest for obtaining goods like fuel wood. So deforestation or excessive cutting of trees, it affects the livelihood or the dependency of these people who still depend on wood to cook meals or to heat their homes. So excessive deforestation, it affects the livelihood of the people who are directly dependent on these forest resources. So there are some policies which are there. There are some management policies which are there to support people, to support the local people, and to also monitor if these forests are not excessively being exploited, and also to restore the green cover. So one of the major managements which is there is the joint forest management. So joint forest management, it works on a very different way. What it does is that since of course these tribal or these rural people, they they are also dependent on they are also dependent upon the wood products. They're also cutting. They have to deforest and cut these woods for their personal purpose. So the government, it allows them to cut trees, it allows them to obtain woods for their fuel, but it also asks for their support to monitor the area, to see if some illegal activities are not happening, to also so basically what is expected of them is that they can cut trees, they can remove fuel for fuel wood, they can deforest trees, but they have to constantly plant trees as well. You have to constantly ensure that even if they are cutting trees, they are maintaining the green cover. So the aim is to provide to them these resources because they do not have availability or resources. So they are given the permission to cut a specific frequency of trees, but or for the fuel. But on the at the same time, they're expected to identify if some illegal activities are happening, and also to, or if some overexploitation is happening, so they have to prevent overexploitation, and they also have to ensure that they contribute their part in restoring the green cover, but they have to plant trees as well. So this began as a form and as an informal arrangement in West Bengal between the local communities and the forest department, but gradually with time it has now become a formal arrangement which identifies that locals have their rights and they benefit a lot from resources. So those rights cannot be taken from them if instead they are given the responsibility to contribute their part towards the environment. There is a national forest policy uh, which was given in 1988. So it's basically 25% of income
اكلم
generated.
هو من
Finish with yourself.
وانا وتعرين تعرف
So
من وزع
25% of the income generated must go to the local community, and it's done in states like Kerala and Gujarat. And also, grazing has to be prevented under it. So we'll start again on Monday with different medicinal plants that are there and their sources and how they are used. So we'll, I think, end the class here. I think everybody understood everything without.
नहीं मैम बस लास्ट वाला जो नेशनल फॉरेस्ट पॉलिसी आई गेस वो समझ नहीं आया क्योंकि शोर मच रहा था बहुत।
National forest policy basically is that the government says कि since these local communities, they are not only are they're using fuel wood, but they're also planting trees. They're also monitoring if whether there are some illegal activities happening or not. So they are also contributing, they're giving their part to it. So the total income or the total revenue which is generated, the total money which is there, so 25, so every state decide the average decision to contribute some of the income generated. 25% of the income which is made, it's given to the local community, the tribal or the rural area. So say, states like Kerala, they give 25% of the income to these people, to these villages or the communities which are living. But there are some states like Gujarat also, which give 50% of their income. So they're also not only are they asking these people to protect. So when they're asking these people, these communities to protect their forests, they're also paying them for that. So they also get a source of income. They are being paid to protect the forest, to ensure that overexploitation नहीं हो रहा, and the green cover restoration, they are paid some compensatory money, some amount of monetary benefit is also given to them. So that is the national forest policy. Is it clear?
Okay. Yes ma'am.
ठीक है, तो we'll end now. I hope everything is clear, and we'll start
Yes
again
ma'am.
on Monday then. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.